Thank you, Una. So just to let you know what's going to happen now, Kevin is going to come out shortly and do a demonstration of preparing the breakfast that you're about to have, so that you'll be able to see him doing that on the screens. Following that, you will be called in groups to one of the locations where the breakfast is being served from, and you can collect that there. So that's being catered by Barbara Russell. And then after that, there will be some time for questions and answers, and hopefully you'll come back out afterwards to meet the food producers that you haven't already met at that stage. We'll be there for quite a while afterwards. Kevin Thornton is probably regarded as Ireland's best chef. I don't want to do a Bridget Jones's diary on it and start saying, well, there's another good chef and so on, but we can say a few things for sure. Kevin was the first chef in Ireland to get 2 Michelin stars for his restaurant, and he ran Thornton's for 26 years in Dublin, and now he's involved in lots of other things like we're doing here this morning as well. I suppose he's a sort of a philosopher of food, would that be fair to say? And his cooking is informed by distinctive flavours of local produce and inspired by a keen appreciation of nature. So we asked Kevin to develop this Tipperary breakfast for us, and he's going to start preparing it for you now. So Thank you very much, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. I can get rid of this, actually. Can everybody hear me? Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me here. And because obviously I was born in Tipperary, so I'm so proud of everything that comes from Tipperary. And when I was asked to do, sorry, it's a bit close, is it? Yeah. When I was asked to do the breakfast, out here. Is that better? When I was asked to do breakfast, like a breakfast, if you think of a breakfast, bacon, egg and sausage and beans and all the English stuff and the Irish stuff combined together, and I was thinking I want to try and do something that's different, but yes, using all the ingredients that's around, you know, like eggs, apples, blackberries, and black pudding, white pudding, and using everything but change it slightly to a little bit different and make it healthy. Like, you know, what's healthy? Healthy basically means that you have a good stable diet overall. Not just one meal will make life healthy, but the most important meal of the day for me anyway is breakfast. You know, so what I did is like instead of porridge I used the oats, but I made a tuile out of the oats. And then here apple, because I have a huge problem with waste. I hate waste. I like recycling everything. I like making sure that everything I use is done properly. I have forgot one. Yeah, I have them here. So I made 2 types of apple puree. Apple puree, you know, when you peel the apple. So instead of throwing away the apple, you use it. So I made a puree with the apple, with the skin on it, the heart and skin. And then I made an apple puree like your mother used to make. All right. So I will start going on, and then if you have any questions, just ask, and I'll try and answer the best I can. Okay? So we have some really beautiful bread, like a sourdough bread. What makes, you know, cooking easy is the raw materials. If you have good raw materials, there's really nothing to do, only just put it together and let it talk for itself. So that's what I try to do. And the good thing about Tipperary produce is that it's really good, and it's all from around the area. Like if you think of the apples, like beautiful apples, and you taste them and it tastes like a real apple. You know, how many times do you eat an apple and think, oh, it tastes like an orchard apple? Every apple comes from an orchard, but the trouble is that whether they're using chemicals or not chemicals, or whether it's natural as possible. Okay, so I'll keep my mouth quiet for a while and just get started. So we have a yogurt here as well, and this yogurt is made specially. And you know, to calculate the cost of it, it's really, is this, maybe I'll pull this out a bit. Is that better? Is it echoing? Yeah. So, for instance, one tub of this, we got 92 portions out of a tub of quenelle of fresh yogurt. So if you calculate that, how much this costs, and then you divide it down. An apple, we use 36 apples for 100 people. You know, so one egg will do 4 portions, because we break the egg and just mix it here with a little bit of milk and butter. You know, so we didn't use Kerrygold, because Kerrygold is kind of one of the best butters in the world, but there's a Tipperary butter that's equally as good as it. So we use that instead. Okay, I'll just get started here. First of all is, the blackberries, all right? So I get my apple. If you have any questions, just ask. Because like sometimes when you're up here doing stuff, I like to interact. I don't like to be doing all the talking because it gets boring. So did you all have breakfast already? No, that's good. Yeah. So what's good about this dish is that you, you know you also have to think of people, vegans, vegetarians, all that sort of stuff, and make sure that you're aware of what it is. And all the only difference with this, if it's vegan, obviously they can't eat the bread or they can't eat the yogurt. They can have the apples and the compote of fruit and the apple juice and the dried apple, and then the apple powder. And then if you're a veggie, then you can have the bread, the apples, the egg, and everything except the pudding. They wouldn't really like the pudding. So here we have really super oil from. Some of the names I might forget, so you can correct me. But this is emerald, the emerald oil. I was in a place the other day, and it said Emerald Diving Center in the Philippines, but there was nothing emerald about it. They just robbed the name. So it just sorts it off. And then this one here. And the whole idea with this dish is that I wanted to kind of think that it was like a dinner. Like if you think about breakfast, worst thing about breakfast, you go places and everything is in bain-maries, and the egg is like really disgusting. Everything is, bacon is overcooked, everything is really, they don't do it to order. And I can't understand why, because it only takes a few minutes. Like it's all about getting your mise en place organized. So this is a juice. I pureed some blackberries and I mixed it with some apple juice. So I've just put it in here. So the whole idea is that you don't really want the apples overcooked. You want them like a bite in them. And then some blackberries. And then usually at the start I'm a bit all over the place. But, oh yeah, here it is. Here. Because we were trying to get, because you'll be impatient once you start to get fed. So we're just trying to finish everything off before I came out. Right, so I'm going to cook the bacon and the French toast at the same time. Now, obviously, it's Tipperary toast, actually. It's not French toast, Tipperary. So it's similar to French toast. So the idea, but if you think about all of the food throughout the world, like the crêpe Suzette, the pancake cake from Ethiopia, everybody robs from everybody and put their own stamp on it. So now it's our turn to do our thing. So I just put the bacon in here, and then the bread, I slice the bread down. Now, out of a loaf of bread, you don't need, what's really good about this is the older the bread is, the better. Not the fresher, the older the bread. So I just soak it in this slightly. And then, I wanted to use the oil rather than butter to get a crispier, because usually when you use the butter, sometimes you get, unless you clarify the butter, you get all the molecules coming down and all the milk burns in it, and you get all these little black dots, so I want to try and stop that. Okay. Any questions? No? Nobody's talking, so I'm doing all the talking. All right. And the whole idea with this is that when you're doing something like this, is that you're organized, because what is it about breakfast? It's the last meal you're going to have in somebody's place before you leave. So it's the last thing that stops in your head. So you have to think about it. Like the dinner the night before, yes, is one thing, and you talk, and you might have been drinking and stuff like that. But the breakfast is the one that's going to set you going for the day. So you have to make sure that it's perfect, because when they leave your establishment, they think, oh my God, that was amazing. Right? Not, oh my God, that was shit. So always think about the positives. So you just cook it, and it's very important always to taste it. Now the purees, the juice of the apple, what I did is reduce down the apple and then pass it through a muslin cloth, and then I have a little apple juice here, and I put it into a syringe just for some dots. Now out of this much, we get 150 plates. So really the cost of it is very little. It's about really organizing yourself. I'll just turn this down a tiny bit. Any questions? Nobody? Please talk to me, please. Somebody must say something. Yeah? Nobody? Okay, so I'll just talk to myself. So, 5 dots, and then we've got apple puree. And this is apple puree like your mother used to make. Right, so I can turn that off, and then turn this down, and it's just nearly cooked. Nobody, huh? Yeah, bullshit. You're not really shy at all. You're just waiting for somebody else to ask a question, and then because you don't want to be the fool, is that it? So here I have uh, three purees, or three powders. This powder is black pudding. A reason why I did the powder black pudding is that I wanted, the flavor of the pudding. Sorry, the flavor of the pudding, but not to be too intense, because sometimes if you have a lot of pudding, bacon, egg, sausage, your tummy is really full, and you feel. Oops. Okay. You feel stuffed, and the whole thing with oops. Okay, I just have to make sure this is off so it doesn't explode. The most important thing is that when you finish any meal is that you don't feel anything lodging in your tummy. The whole idea is that you feel full, but not overfull. And the idea with this is that the freshness is coming from the apples, the acid in the apples. And then, especially in the morning, like when you want to eat, you want juices. And that's why you're supposed to wait and drink the juice with this. But of course, some of you were really, quick. And then the apple slice, you slice the apple and you bite into it. So you get all the flavors coming together. So here I have the apple skin here. And then I powdered it. And just put it. And when you taste this, it's really intense. The flavor is quite intense from it. And then this white pudding powder. So therefore, your ingredients are really going to go a long way. It's not that you're being mean about it. It's just that you're being different. And then the bacon. And then, so what I did with these is I skinned them and then put them in the humidifier for 52 degrees for 24 hours. So you can organize yourself, and then the morning that the breakfast is really easy, And you put it down here like that. And then the toast, and then the compote. Now the idea with the apples, I see I don't know where the camera, oh yeah, there it is. The idea with this is the beautiful color and it's really fresh and inviting. How? So I dried everything what it is, like for instance, the pudding, where is it here? So I sliced them all about 1.5 millimeters thickness, and then put them in. You don't, I'm just very precise about what I do and the size I do. So, but you just slice them as thinly as you can, and then dry them out. And when they're dried, you put them into a mixer and the powder. So it's very clean. So you always start off with your mixer with the white stuff like the apple. So you don't put your meat in after the apple or before the apple, because if you do, the vegetarians can't eat it because there's a trace of it somewhere. And then just powders. And because the skin of the apple, when you're peeling the apples, the thing is that rather than throw it away, you keep it and you use the skin. Like from the heart, basically I used, I made the juice out of the heart of the apples, like this one here, and then reduced right down. And then the yogurt. Now the yogurt, when we were doing the yogurt first, I wanted to try and get something with not too much sugar in it, And the thing sometimes with frozen yogurt, not saying I love frozen yogurt, but sometimes it's too heavy, too much sweetness in it. So we developed this one with only the sugar was coming from grape juice, isn't that right? Where's come? Yeah, from grape juice. And then you just put your yogurt, because the reason the yogurt is good for it is because it's refreshing, refreshing in the morning. And then you put this down, the mint heart on top, and then the porridge. Where's it? Oh yeah, here. So the tuile. So basically the tuile, I just get the honey, and just when the honey just starts to caramelize, and put the oats in it, and then just work the oats until they start to go brown. And when they start to go brown, you get on your table, just put a little bit of oil, this oil here, and put it down, and then roll it really thin, and then turn it over after 4 minutes, and it just goes hard naturally. And the thing is, the amazing thing about stuff like this is that it lasts for ages. You know what I mean? So there's no waste. You can organize yourself properly. And that's it. It's really simple. So, okay. Any questions? Yes? How amount of calories? Well, the thing is that if you're moving every day and you're working hard, you don't really need to worry about the calories. So the thing is, most of the calories are coming from the yogurt. So most of the calories are coming from the yogurt. Like the thing is, with the way things are going with PC and stuff like that, is most people are not eating well. They're sitting around all day, they're not exercising. Like your diet is really about you as a human being and a person to organize yourself correctly. So to be honest, I haven't worked out the calories in. There's 5.2 grams of yogurt in it. So if you calculate the 5.2 grams of yogurt, you can get the calorie content in the yogurt. And then the apples and the blueberries. But there's no sugar in it. There's only honey where you will get some calories, but it's natural honey. And you're really only supposed to eat honey from your own area. So this is like Tipperary honey. So it's from your own area. You should really only eat everything. So I can't really, but I will find out and come back to you. Any other questions? No? Yes? Yes? Well, for instance, if you have one of the greatest inventions ever since sliced pan was a vacuum pack machine. So you could really organize yourself, and then you can get, I'm not saying you have to go and buy a vacuum pack machine, but you can actually buy ones that just seal stuff, or you can just get cling film and wrap it up correctly. But for instance, these will last, I did a test and will last 7 days, but because it's humidity that makes them soft. So if you control the humidity, like for instance, a small little salt bag, and then you put it in with your dry stuff and it lasts up to 2 to 3 weeks. The apples, for instance, they, once they come out, they last. You buy potatoes, for instance. Somebody here is producing amazing crisps, O'Donnell's crisps, is it? Yeah. So, it's the same thing. Like the same thing, they last forever. Once you control, everything is time, temperature control. And once you understand time, temperature control, you can do anything. The powders, for instance, the same thing, they last. They last for a few weeks. But the thing is not doing them months in advance and then, said, oh, he told me that it would last months. For me, it would be organized over 2-3 days in advance. So you can do all this prep work. Like we did all of this, started off from scratch yesterday. And then all you have to do is like your compost, you can have it ready and just keep it warm. But the worst thing about any food is leaving it there, and because the bain-marie says it's supposed to be there for an hour or stuff like that. And really what happens is that it's overheated, it's not really done. So you try just to finish it at the last minute. But most of it, like the apple purees, you saw how long it took. It didn't take really long. So you can still do 10, 15 in there. Does that answer the question? Okay. Well, yes, what you could do is freeze the purees, in small quantities, and that way you're taking it out in small quantities. But you can't freeze. There's no such thing as you can't. You can do anything in life, but there's no point. Why would you freeze this when you're drying it out? It doesn't make sense. So you dry it out, you vacuum pack it, and keep it. So this is, like I said, like the crisps, like the pudding. Like when you taste the pudding, it's crunchy. And normally when you taste the pudding, it's the fat that's coming through. So what I wanted, because it was a healthy breakfast, I wanted to control the fat element of it, and also using our traditional things like the white pudding and the black pudding. Any other questions? No, the girl is yawning, she's bored. So I better go. Sorry. Oh, well, the simple thing, you have an oven at home, so you can regulate your oven by buying a little thermometer, but set the oven at 100 degrees, put in your thermometer, and that will tell you the exact temperature of the oven. So then when you're drying anything out, you start at 52 degrees. Now 52 degrees, if there's a fan in the oven, will take roughly about 12 hours. You can up the temperature slightly, but what you don't want is that when you're drying this out, that you want the apple to be as natural as possible. So to get the apple as natural as possible, usually 52 degrees is the best option. Now the thing is that most people, when you think about it, you think temperature, 1 degree, 2 degrees, who gives a damn? But the thing is that if you're going out and it's 0 degrees outside and somebody says, no, it's -2, you think, oh shit, I better put a jacket on. So that's the difference. But in culinary terms, most people don't really care about temperatures. But we do, because it's about precision. So if you can up to 56 degrees, anything beyond that, you're going to add color to it. But then, if you want to do it really quick, you set your oven to 110 degrees, make a syrup with honey and water, dip it in, and put it on a tray, but then turn it every 20 seconds, and it crystallizes very quickly. If you're in the Lallas and you want to do it, there's a will, there's a way, you know. Any other questions? No. You're asking a lot of questions. If you which? If you don't what? No, I just said explained about the oven. Yeah, what is a humidifier? The humidifier. It's just basically a thing with a fan in it that doesn't really cost much at all to make. So use your oven as the same process, you know. Okay? And then you can use this if you have no electricity and you want to make powder. You can put this in here and then crush it down, you know, because the electricity could have been turned off on you and you still have guests. So you can powder it. You can say, I can't do it. Okay, I better go in because you're all probably hungry and you want to eat quickly. Okay? Okay, thank you. All right.